In SAP Analytics Cloud, we can create a model to contain the measures and dimensions we'll use for data exploration and planning from the main menu. The most common method to create a comprehensive planning model is to start with a blank model and define the dimensions and accounts from scratch. We'll give the model a unique name and an optional description. The model includes tabs for the 3 dimensions all planning models must include: time, version, and accounts. On the Time tab, we need to choose the lowest level of granularity to display in stories. We'll also set the start and end dates for our model. These dates determine what data we can import for past periods and how far into the future we can plan. Next, we'll choose the default time hierarchy for the model to determine how time displays in stories. If desired, we can also enable the fiscal year feature to specify a year starting with a month other than January. On the Version tab, a single version exists by default to hold our actuals. Additional versions are automatically added to the dimension when we import or publish data in other categories, such as budget or forecast. Refer to the video on managing data category versions for more details. Next, we need to set up our account dimension, which will contain all our measures. We can create a new dimension or select an existing one. We'll start by giving the dimension a name, and optionally we can add a description. There's an option to enable data access control, which allows us to specify which users can read or write data for each account member. Refer to the video on model security for more details. We also have the option to make the dimension public, which means that it can be reused in other models if desired. Note that the process to update master data, such as dimension members or attributes, is different for public dimensions than for other dimensions. Refer to the video on importing master data to a public dimension for more details. We can fill in the columns here to define the account structure, either by entering the values manually or copying and pasting them from a spreadsheet. Note that many columns are optional. We'll start by pasting in the IDs or account numbers and the associated descriptions or names for the accounts. When we provide descriptions for dimension members, the descriptions typically display in stories rather than the IDs. Next, we can optionally define the account type for each member as income, expense, asset, liability, or non-financial. Because currency conversion is enabled for this model, a rate type column is available in the account dimension, where the appropriate currency conversion rate type is automatically specified based on the account type we selected. Refer to the videos on model preferences and currency conversion for more details. In the hierarchy column, we'll define the parent ID for each account member. On the Dimension Info tab of the Preview panel, we can preview all accounts to see the full hierarchy. Note that we can reorder members by dragging and dropping them if desired. The units and currencies, aggregation type, exception aggregation type, exception aggregation dimension, scale, and decimal places columns determine how the numeric values of the underlying data are calculated and displayed. The required dimension column allows us to specify dimensions that must be displayed along with the account in charts or tables to ensure that the calculations are accurate. The formula column allows us to calculate account values based on the values of other accounts. Refer to the individual videos about these features for more details. The Hide column lets us stop certain account members from being visible in stories without affecting the accuracy of calculations that involve those members. The Threshold column allows us to define ranges to classify account values as OK, warning, or critical. Refer to the video on creating thresholds for more details. Because we're using currency conversion, we need to add another dimension to specify how to handle the data that we will import in different currencies. We need to set the dimension type as organization. We'll call the dimension region. Apart from the time, version, and account dimensions, all dimensions in a planning model must contain an unassigned entry to support allocations, so we need to enter the appropriate additional values for this row. Generic dimensions contain only ID and description columns by default, but organization dimensions also contain a currency column where we need to specify the currency we'll use when we import data for each member, as well as a person responsible column where we can optionally specify the user who will, by default, be assigned to input tasks associated with that member. Refer to the video about input tasks for more details. We'll paste the appropriate values in the columns. Note that members in a dimension can be organized into a hierarchy if desired. Refer to the video on creating a hierarchy in a model for more details. We can use the same technique to create other generic dimensions. Refer to the video on adding dimensions to models for details. Now we'll save the model. Once the model is complete, we can import our data into it. Refer to the video on importing data into a model for more details. Note that we cannot create planning models based on live data sources. Thanks for watching.